What's up, guys? We're gonna go through 4 different ways to train your abs, or I don't like the word core, I like to use the word trunk, but regardless of what you call it, 4 ways to train your trunk, midsection, midline. Most people already know what a sit-up or a crunch is. And the problem is that it's only one type or one way for you to actually train your midline or your trunk. You have lots of supporting muscles in there. And so we're gonna go through a couple different versions and a couple different ways you can do it. So you have flexion extension, which is your sit-up. You have rotation type movement, side to side or twisting. You have anti-rotation, so I'm actually resisting getting twisted. And then you have bracing or control. So flexion extension, I'm not gonna touch on that too deeply other than the fact that you can do your sit-up, but one thing that often gets neglected is lateral flexion and extension. So meaning if you were to hold a dumbbell in one hand and other hand up beside your ear, getting into what's called a teapot or tilting to the side, I'm getting more oblique action here. So that's lateral. Lateral meaning I'm going to the side. So lateral flexion and extension is something that often gets overlooked. Rotation, okay? One good rotation, I'm just gonna show you a couple movements with the band here. One good rotation movement is banded rotations, okay? Very straightforward. Grabbing the top of the band with my opposite arm, standing up nice and tall, hinging at the hips, so I'm kind of going into a bit of a quarter squat. Standing with good posture, I'm going to twist and bring it back within control. Now I'm fighting to keep my hips as stable and forward as I can, so I'm not twisting the lower body. I'm really trying to work through the trunk. Again, neither is right or wrong, it's just what are you effectively trying to accomplish? And if it's that rotation through the trunk, then I need to keep my hips stable, okay? So from here, twisting, all right, so that's your rotation type movement. Again, there's lots of variety and I'm not gonna get into the tons and hundreds of movements that you can do, but something that you really need to incorporate into your trunk, ab, core control training is rotation type movements. Another one is anti-rotation. So I'm gonna show you one of my favorite, which is called the Palloff press. Okay, so I'm standing, again, feet hip width apart, slight bend in the knees and hips, so I'm in that quarter squat position, and I'm gonna hold the band at my chest. Now, from here, I'm keeping that shoulder down, or both shoulders down, and keeping good posture. I'm gonna press the band out. As I press out, the band wants to pull me into this twisted or rotation. That's why we call it anti-rotation. So I have to use my trunk, use my abs, use kind of everything in my midline to maintain control and not lose against the band. So I'm not letting the band twist me as I press out. And you'll find the further out you press, the more it wants to pull you into this rotation twist type movement. So you have lateral flexion extension, your traditional flexion extension, sit-ups are a great example of that. You have your rotation type, with such as a banded rotation, and your anti-rotation. Now the last one is bracing. One of the most popular movements for that is plank. The problem is that I find a lot of people don't actually plank correctly. One movement that I really try and dial my clients into getting perfect is called the dead bug. So I'm gonna lay down on the floor here. Now, first things first, with the dead bug, you're gonna have this space under your low back. You wanna make sure that you tilt the hips to press every vertebrae into the floor. From here, I'm gonna go both arms and legs extended as straight as possible. If you have a slight bend in the knee, that's okay, but I'm gonna fight to keep them as straight as possible. Now for my dead bug, I like to start people with just the legs. So I'm gonna keep my arms here, lowering my leg as low to the ground as I can, and then bringing it back up to center without letting this low back arch off the floor. So I wanna fight against this arch, which means I have to engage my transverse abdominis, or my layer of muscle underneath my six pack. Whether or not you can see it, you still have it, okay? And I'm extending the leg down and bringing it back up, okay? If you wanna make this more complicated, I'm gonna go opposite arm and leg, okay? slow and controlled. If I want to make it really complicated, both arms and legs in what's called a 4-way dead bug. The entire time, I'm not letting my back arch off the floor. I'm keeping every piece of my spine pressing into the ground. So that is 4 different types of movements you can do to train your abs, train your trunk. Flexion extension, not just forward back, but side to side, lateral flexion extension. Then you have rotation, twisting type movements, anti-rotation, so something to fight against twisting, and then your bracing control. My favorite movement for that is the dead bug. Lots of movements. If you need some ideas, hit me up or follow any of my channels. And if you need more guidance from that, you can check out our programs online or coaching options on heroicathletics.com. See you next time.